Hello everybody and welcome to another real estate video. This is Javier Vidana, the real estate YouTube guy here in Phoenix, Arizona, helping you accomplish your home goals, making a spooky, scary topic today. I don't mean spooky, scary in this context, but rather the reaction it causes out of people. So before I begin, if you don't know what DACA is, and this is not here to be a political conversation, right? Regarding what your opinions are or what you think about it, the reality of the fact is there's an estimated 600 to 900,000 people in the United States who have valid work permits, who are living here and going to live here permanently, and they need somewhere to stay. They either rent something or they're buying, and yes, they are eligible to buy. So this video is for those who are or friends or family of those folks who are just generally curious on what their options are to purchase a home. Now, if you're not DACA or you're here to argue or talk about the politics about it, this is not the right video for you. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about it. So DACA was released in, I believe, November of 2012. After that point, all you really need to do is, just like everybody else, you need a 2 years work history and all those other main factors. And if you don't know what you need to qualify for a house, there is a link above in case you wanted to watch it. So anyways, after that point, DACA recipients were able to use down payment assistance. They were able to use FHA financing, which is a very popular choice for first-time home buyers. There was conventional products. There was all this good stuff as long as they had that at least 2 year work history requirement, which if the calculations are correct, if it came out in 2012, 2014/15 is when DACA recipients were able to purchase. I have been licensed since 2013, so in at least a year or two after my being licensed, I helped plenty of DACA recipients get into homes. As a matter of fact, plenty of times it didn't really even come up with me, and it was more with the lender, and I didn't even know most of the time. So everything was pretty normal until September of 2017. Now, if you're a DACA recipient, you probably know what happened in this month, but if you're not, let me enlighten you. Our Attorney General at the time, Jeff Sessions, came out with a speech that basically said DACA was no more. Didn't really give an indication of what was next for DACA recipients, simply that DACA was being removed and is no longer valid. So at that point, a lot of the DACA recipients went on a frenzy, the media went on a frenzy, everything kind of, got shooken up. And it was funny because a few months later, it turns out that the appeal, it was reversed, and now DACA wasn't canceled, but they just stopped allowing new recipients for applying. So essentially everybody who had DACA at that point, there was nothing to worry about. However, there was an effect to this. If you were in the process of buying a home at that time and you were a DACA recipient, it kind of just stopped for you. FHA completely stopped funding towards DACA recipients. And even though after the fact it was released that DACA recipients who had it were able to renew as long as they could for the next foreseeable future, FHA didn't allow it and didn't even want nothing to do with it. So now early 2018, down payment assistance programs are starting to not be as popular anymore, because I think it was in March 2018 where the interest rates just kind of spiked. I talked about it in this video, or I talked about the huge differences of down payment assistance programs. So they were already not being as popular anyways. However, they're still being used out there. And unfortunately, as of that DACA ruling, not only was FHA not allowed, but down payment assistance programs were completely removed off the table. It doesn't matter if it was an FHA down payment assistance or a conventional down payment assistance, they were no longer available. Now, there was like a month or two where they would come back on and off, but as of that point, it was no longer valid or able to be used by DACA recipients. So what choice does that leave DACA recipients after that point? Well, it was only conventional, and not conventional down payment assistance, like I said before, just purely conventional. And if you don't know the difference between FHA and conventional, I talk about it in length of this video. But in short terms, really all that means is that, if you're going conventional, if you're mid 600s, you are going to be able to qualify. However, you won't, get the best deal. You're going to get a little higher interest rate. The mortgage insurance will be a little higher. Although the pros of it is your mortgage insurance will be able to be paid off eventually, or once you reach 80-20 loan of value, it'll be dropped. However, it's still, the payment won't be as nice as that lower interest rate with FHA. On top of that, DACA recipients, because there's no down payment assistance, they have to come up with a down payment as of that point, because there was just no assistance, as like I said. So 3%, 5%, 10%, 20%, you needed some kind of down payment assistance to qualify. So as of that November 2017, early 2018 point, that was your only option as a DACA recipient. You needed to go conventional, not FHA or down payment assistance. You needed to have a down payment minimum of 3 to 5%, and you needed to really have a pretty good solid credit score, because once again, although you could qualify your conventional in your mid 600s, it really won't be as great as of a deal if you were in the 700s. So this was the norm for a while until May 2019, where it was released by Freddie Mac that DACA recipients were no longer to be funded by any Freddie Mac programs. What does this mean exactly? Well, once again, I am not a lender. I am a real estate agent, so I can only give you what I kind of know. And of course, a lender will be able to sit here and break down details and tell you the specific reasons and details of what the difference between Freddie Mac and other products are. However, there's reasons why there's not really much lenders out there who have successful YouTube channels, because they did not a good job at it. So let me kind of break down what that really means. Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae is the two options you basically have when you go conventional. Now, from my understanding of this is that Fannie Mae is usually, according to the lender I just spoke with recently, over 90% of the conventional products that are run through the lenders are going through Fannie Mae. So Fannie Mae usually a little more lenient, so the debt to income ratio can be a little more manageable. You know, if there's some delinquencies, you can try to overcome them. You as the buyer don't really decide if it goes for Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae. This is just like more lender speak and what they know behind the scenes. According to the lenders I've spoken with, it's only optional, it's only really beneficial to go the Freddie Mac route instead of Fannie Mae conventional if, according to them, there is a situation where there's no to little income but a lot of assets, meaning you have $1 million in the bank or who knows what, but you don't have much income at the moment. You need an appraisal waiver. You know, maybe you have a really great scenario where your credit's great, your down payment's great, you don't even want to bother with an appraisal. Usually Freddie Mac will be able to go and grant that for you. And other odds and ends where, you know, the guidelines are a little different and it might benefit you in some way. But like I said, Fannie Mae usually ends up being used as the main preference because the flexible guidelines and just, you know, it's easier to work with, as I understand from lenders. So what does that mean for DACA recipients? Well, if there has been any updates of since, please look at my comments below. If I have commented that there's an update, use this as the update, right? So anyways, as of right now, DACA recipients, this is your only option. You can't go FHA, you can't go down payment assistance, you can only go conventional. You have to have your own down payment. There's going to be no kind of assistance available for you. It doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer, it doesn't matter if you have great credit or any of that. If you're down DACA, you will have to have your down payment. I would say you can go with 3% down fine or 5% down. And lastly, your lender will have to run your underwriting through Fannie Mae instead of Freddie Mac, which once again really doesn't affect the majority of people, but if you happen to be in a very special circumstance, that's not going to be very beneficial to you. So why am I giving you all this overabundance of information? Well, let me tell you this. I detest lenders and realtors who use people's situation against them to try to, you know, get another escrow a client. I would heard probably about 100 times where there's a DACA recipient that reaches out to me. They say, hey, I talked to this lender. Originally, they told me, yeah, it's okay. We'll get you down payment assistance. Yeah, there's a special program for you. They go to their office, they sit down. Only once they run credit, once they run everything, to tell them, oh, you're DACA. Oh, yeah, never mind. You won't be able to do down payment assistance. You won't be able to do any of that. You have to pay 3-5% down. You have to be conventional. Because here's the thing, once they have you down at the table, once they have you looking at houses, it's kind of harder to say no. Yes, it is possible, but it's harder to say no. So I'm giving you this info so when you go talk to these lenders, it doesn't matter where you're from, you have this knowledge in the back of your head. Now, if you're still watching the video, here's a general tip for you. Really, you're getting the same interest rate as everyone else. There's no like negatives of being DACA. The one thing they do request from you that's a little different than others, loans, is they're going to ask you for all of your DACA cards that you've ever received. So you probably renewed it every 2-3 years. You're going to need a copy of every single one you've had. So I hope you still have it. If you haven't, start looking for copies because they do request that. They want proof that you've had DACA status all those years. One thing as well is I just recommend try to have your credit as best as possible, because you're forced to go conventional. You kind of have to have that more, you don't have to, but it benefits you to have that credit score be a little higher. In conclusion, if you're a DACA recipient, there are no shortcuts. You have to buy a house the good old-fashioned way. You have to go conventional. You have to have a down payment of 3 to 5 or 10 or 20%. You can't use down payment assistance. You can't use FHA with a low interest rate. Although having a mid 600s credit would qualify you, it would benefit you just slightly more if you had a higher credit, preferably in the 700s. That way your interest rate, your mortgage insurance could be a little better. There's no, like I said before, there's no shortcuts. You have to buy a house with good old sweat, blood, and tears, or sweat, tears, blood. How does that saying go? I don't know. There is no shortcuts. You have to save your money. You have to do things the old-fashioned way. And I talk to some DACA recipients sometimes, and they get bummed out because they can't do down payment assistance. There's a silver lining to this, right? Nothing was easy for DACA recipients. You've had to fight. You've had to work hard. Society has set expectations for DACA recipients, and they've had to be overcome. So yes, unfortunately, you can't use down payment assistance programs, but ultimately this helps. By going conventional, your mortgage insurance won't be there forever. Once you reach 80/20 loan to value, it will be completely wiped. Secondly, with conventional product, if your credit is higher, you can benefit from a little more incentive by going conventional. So once you have the house, no one can take it from you. It is yours. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Once again, I hope we don't get political in the comments below. This is just meant to be strictly informative. So if you guys have any questions or anything I can help you with, you can leave a comment below. And if you are in the Phoenix real estate area, my contact information is below. Any questions or anything I can help you to buy or sell your home, no matter if you're DACA or not, I am here to help. So thank you guys for your time. If you're looking for a good security system that's contract free, it's able to be used with your smart home devices in your phone, check out abode.com. If you go to abode.com/Javier Vidana, you can be able to check out my story there for a bit. Click the link and start checking out different products. And if you like them, feel free to buy them. And if you use my link to go through it, then it really helps me. So thank you guys very much for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.